Nice to meet you all. I'm Kate. I'm work with the AGP program as a business mentor and coach and advisor, having previously been a business owner myself. Some of you may or may not have been to my previous sessions. Today we're talking about planning specifically for 2023. So my last session was about planning in general. There'll be a bit of crossover, but not too much. Today is more about really trying to hit 2023 with a bit of a bang and understanding if you to know where you need to be headed, and give you some tips on ways to critically evaluate your business or your business plan specifically to help you get prepared for 2023. There we go. What we're going to cover today then is why it's important to create a plan. And apologize now, I'm not teaching anyone to suck eggs. I'm just wanted to kind of go through this in a logical way. There's some very obvious reasons why we need a bit more focus on planning this year. Things to consider when you're creating a plan for the coming year, and what bits you should review with your current plan and why. I'll touch a little bit on what is a business plan. If you'd attended my session before, you would have seen this slide before. I'm a massive advocate of having strategic plans in place. I always have been in my own business, and prior to that in my kind of corporate career. I'm always sort of talking about having a plan and how much time you actually save by planning, even though it feels like a bit of a pain at the time. I'm talking about business plans in terms of those kind of longer term 2 to 3 year plans, but today we're going to look a little bit more at the immediate term. In any plans, there's always going to be things that you need to make an educated guess on, but because in the more immediate term, when you're doing a long-term plan, you have to kind of put a bit of finger in the air. But as long as you're kind of thinking about what your goals and objectives are and you're using logic, that's fine. When you're looking at the next sort of 6 to 12 months, there's things that you will know about, you will know that are going to happen. And so this is about getting into the detail of what those events or activities look like. And you'll know a little bit more about the external factors affecting your business, the resources and funds you might need, or adjustments you might need to make to meet your goals and targets you've set for yourself. For the purpose of this session, I'm assuming you have a plan in place, even if it is just a high level view of your revenue targets. But as you can see on the screen, it says a business plan is a document that describes in detail how a business defines the objective and how it's going to achieve those goals. I know not every business has that amount of detail, but as long as you've got a point where you're going to, that's important. So again, next slide you might have seen before, but this is just outlining the benefits of a business plan. I think it's worthwhile revisiting that because sometimes we forget, but having a business plan helps you go faster. There are studies that say that you go 30% faster with a plan in place, so therefore businesses with plans perform better. We know it helps you minimize risks because you've probably identified a lot of them, and that's what we'll talk a bit more about today. Or you've done the work to know what will happen if you take a risk. It helps you create focus and direction. We're all so busy, particularly in smaller businesses, that you've got less resource and you're so busy that sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and you need to use your plan to help you focus on and drown out that noise and focus on what's going to grow your business. And we know that you often need business plans to help support you in accessing loans and grants and investment and stuff. But from a personal perspective, it really kind of gives you confidence because you've spent time researching and validating and analysing your business. It gives you a bit of a operating guide or a playbook, helps you to remember to do things, which then leaves your brain power to work on what's going to drive the business. It helps you have the agility to be proactive with challenges and opportunities because, at the end of the day, business plans aren't rigid and unchangeable. They are things you should be reviewing on a regular basis. So if you've got a plan in place, it's far easier to interrogate it and amend it if something unexpected happens. And it helps give you the opportunity to think of new ideas, whether that's on your own or with your team. And it helps you create an action plan. So give you that list of tasks you need to do. And also, which is really, really important, which we always used to say in our business, if you fall down a drain, someone else can come and support you. They can pick up your business plan and know what needs to be done. And the same goes for when you're planning on the short term. Some famous quotes here: if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. We've heard that one a number of times, and this is an interesting one that I like to use. Every minute you spend in planning saves 10 minutes in execution, therefore giving you 1,000% return on your energy. For me, that period between Christmas and New Year, if you're able to work, I love that period for working, because the office is quiet, or even if you work from home, you're not getting as many emails. You've got the space to think and review what's been going on and think about what's coming up. And I always used to love to do that in that period and sort through my admin and everything, because it helped me to get my business off on the right foot in the new year. And this is the time, a perfect time for creating a detailed plan, your living plan for the next 6 to 9 months. And we know it's more important than ever this year, because after nearly 3 years of uncertainty and lots of fluctuation, it continues. We still have an unsteady and uncertain economic outlook. We've got a slowing global economy, political and financial market volatility, hopefully not as bad as it was last quarter. We know that there is a recession coming. We know that. It's quite openly talked about. So the economy will shrink. Inflation will continue to increase, or is currently continuing to increasing. Although there is talk, I was reading some information the other day from the Bank of England that it will start reducing down again in the spring to around 5%. It's around about 11.02, I think, at the moment. And we know that energy, food, wages and tax bills will continue to increase. It all sounds very painful. And we know that in times of this kind of economic financial crisis, SMEs really need to fine tune their business plans, because you haven't got as much resource as bigger businesses to work out the best strategies and tactics to really sustain you through that uncertainty. So going through the process of this detailed planning helps give you a fresh perspective on your business and how to make it as efficient and effective as possible. And it also makes you really think about, have you got the necessary tools to meet your financial goals and your operational goals? So what steps should you take? So I've put together 5 steps here that I think I would do in your situation. So first thing I would do is review my current business plan. Have a look at it. What was happening? What did it say? Have we delivered that? And I'm going to go into each of these in a bit more detail in a second. Second step would be diagnose. So using some diagnostic tools, that old school SWOT still comes into its own, looking at what my critical success factors are for the year and what those challenges and opportunities are for the next 12 months. Then I'd start planning. So having reviewed my plan, I'd be comfortable that my goals, strategies, KPIs are still relevant. Now I start thinking about how I'm going to start tackling those challenges and opportunities I've unearthed in the diagnostic stage into the planning stage. Then the execution is how we're going to deliver that, how we're going to prioritize, who's got the accountability, how we're going to communicate that. And I'm always a fan of continuous review and revision. It doesn't have to be every week, but taking time out every 6-8 weeks to just say, right, where are we versus the plan? So let's have a look at step A. So reviewing your current business plan. I mean, if I ask the question, when did you last look at your business plan? I'm sure some of you might look a bit shifty and say, well, I haven't looked at it for a while. Take it off the shelf or find it on your computer, read through it and think about what you've achieved and what you haven't and what's changed since you wrote this plan. Is it up to date? Does it reflect your current thinking? Is it fit for purpose? Are the objectives, the goals and the KPIs still relevant to you and your business and the way your business is right now? Some of you might not have written that plan or not touched that plan for 2 years. Are you even following it? Who knows? But just by unpicking it will really help you think through, are the actions I'm taking today going to grow my business? Are any of the parts of your plan obsolete? Now, this I think is important, because we often put things in a plan, think, yeah, we're going to do that, and we never get round to it. We might have even bought equipment to do that or brought a resource to do that and never done it. This is an ideal place, particularly when we've got costs going up, to look for some cost-cutting some cost-cutting opportunities, or to reduce your operational costs, or redirect funds to something else in the business that will get you a better return on investment. So think through, did I put a system in place, or am I paying for a software that I thought I was going to use and I'm not using? This, really have a look at what's obsolete in your plan and think about where you can maybe make some efficiency or cost benefits. Is your business model still appropriate? We heard a lot during the pandemic about pivot, but when you set up your business, you will have had a business model in mind that will evolve. But have a real think about, is your business model really meeting the needs of your target market right now? And I'll give you a couple of models in a second to kind of help you think that through, but really think about what's going on for your business in the market, and is your business model the right one for that? And you might want to revisit this question later. In fact, I would suggest you revisit these 4 questions when you've done your process, just to sense check again. And it might not even be the business model, it might be the structure of your business needs a little bit of tweaking, the way, the resources you've got, or the roles you've got in the business. And do you need to make any investments? And that's not just cash investments, but investments in time or resource that weren't relevant when the plan was created. But if you put that investment in, will help grow your business a bit quicker, which then is a benefit to you. So like I said, you might want to come back and think about these questions again once you've kind of gone through your review process. The next one. So the second step was diagnosing challenges and opportunities. And I think the first thing to do, I certainly would, is look at the things that I know are going to happen and note those down. Whether that, and when I say events, I kind of mean more like eventuality. So things that they don't have to be an event like New Year's Day, but things that are going to happen. So note them down. Think about the threats and opportunities that they pose to your business, the drains and gains for your business. Some events are predictable because they happen every year. Depending on your type of business, Easter, Christmas might be really important to you. I know Sean's on this call. Summer's really important to Sean. It might be a trade show that always happens every year, and you're going to get a bit of a kind of boost after that. Or it might be a minimum wage increase. We know those happen every year, pretty much. So something that's predictable. Others only happen in specific years or occasionally. I put World Cup and Olympics in there. I used to work in hospitality many moons ago, so the World Cup was huge for us, and we knew it happened every 4 years. It might be something like a tender renewal that it only happens every 2 years or 3 years, and it's specific to your business, but when it's going to happen. Occasional things, so major legislative change, it's quite hard to say. Generally we're given a couple of years notice for stuff like that, aren't we? High profile events which may or may not have relevance to your business, but about well in advance. This year we've got a coronation coming. We've known about it for a while. It may or may not be relevant to your business, but we know about it. And your business much better than me. You'll know what sits in each of those boxes. And particularly on the last one, some events that will be really unique to your business. So you might be coming to the end of a major contract, or there might be regional development. I know, John, you're in Pembrokeshire. I work sometimes with the Pembrokeshire Coastal Forum. I know that there's a lot of development there. It might be something that's regional market specific to you in your area. And some of these events might threaten your business, while others bring you some opportunity. And once you've identified them, it's a good place to start to put those kind of in your calendar, as it were, to help you plan around them. Some of them you might go, actually, it's relevant to my business, but it's not going to have a huge effect on my business, so I don't need to worry about that. It's just going to happen, and it will happen. Or others, like an end of a major contract, you might have to put some planning in place in a timely and logical manner. You might have forgotten that that's coming up in August. Put it in your diary now, because you're going to have to start doing some work on that. And it's important, really, to think about what outcome you want from these events. So you might be coming to the end of a major contract, but do you know what? That doesn't matter. So the outcome is, I don't want to be in that contract. Okay, fine. So think about what you want from that. I've put a SWOT in here. I bet there's been plenty of eye rolls when you saw the word SWOT. It's very old school, but it's still relevant and we can use them in lots of different ways. I still think they're worthwhile exercise. You don't have to go into massive amount of details. There could be one word answers in each of those boxes. But what I've done here, I've put some questions in those boxes to help you think about what the SWOT is or what your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats are in a slightly more creative way. So things like in your strengths, think about what you do well, what the customers say you do well. Think about your relationships as well as your actions, and think about your skills and assets. And your weaknesses, what do your customers complain about? What limitations do you have? And your opportunities, do our competitors have any weaknesses we can benefit from? Is there an untapped pain point or niche market we have resources to tap into? Is there some export opportunities or expansion opportunities? And under your threats, what new competitors are coming in and what do they look like and when will they be a threat? Is the market shrinking or shifting? Is there new technology that will come along to work against us? So whilst it's old school, I still think it's worth just, one or two answers in each box will help you just categorize what you're thinking. There's another model which I haven't put in this presentation because I think it's more relevant to really large organizations with complex structures, but it's something called the uncertainty matrix. If you Google that, if you fancy looking at it, it is quite complex though, so I don't think it's relevant to SMEs really, and I wouldn't spend too much time on it. And what I will say about everything I'm talking about today, do it quickly and succinctly because you'll get far better answers if you really kind of do it as you're thinking about it rather than spending hours and hours and hours thinking. Planning how you will tackle those challenges and opportunities. So the first thing I wanted to look at here is not actually creating a plan, but what you can control and influence or respond to. So again, we spend a lot of time, we often get very caught up in the what are we going to do rather than why are we going to do it. And I see it all the time, particularly with SMEs and startups, particularly, we jump straight to the, right, I'll just get on with that. Let's just take a step back, think about in context of what's going on for the next 12 months in the external environment to your business and the internal environment to your business. What can you control, influence and respond to? So you've reviewed your goals, strategies, your actions, your KPIs. You started looking at some of the challenges. Now note down under each of those headings what you think you can control, influence or respond to. And things to consider. So we've got management, do we need a slightly different operational model? Have you got the right team in place? Well, that probably just comes under manpower. On the left, you've got market, there's a new competitor coming into the market. Can you control that? Yes or no? Can you influence it? The materials, we know that material costs are fluctuating at the moment. Is there a better supply you could be thinking of, or is there a different way of purchasing those materials you can think of? Mindset, morale and motivation, that's about your team. You can control that. You can, I've always very much advocate of never a problem, always an opportunity. And it's something that was brought to me very early in my career when I worked for a harvester. We weren't allowed to actually say the word problem at work. We had to say I've got an opportunity. So when the grill caught fire in my harvester in Eastbourne, I had to say there's an opportunity in the kitchen, not a problem. But I actually always say now it's never a problem, it's always an opportunity. And so having that positive mindset and instilling that in your team is really important. Money at the bottom there, and we will look at money in a little bit more detail in a second. We'll talk about budget creation in a second, but that at the end of the day is going to help you drive your business, or not, as the case may be. So thinking about that financial housekeeping and your cash flow, evaluating your staffing and your team structures, evaluating your suppliers, find out what their plans are, review their prices, review the quality of their service, review the quality of their products, try out new vendors potentially. have a look at and evaluate your marketing efforts. Is there something slightly different you could be doing? Your equipment, is it all in good working order? Will you need to update anything this year? Will that be a cost, and where does that cost come in your plan for the year? So the next slide is on creating a budget, and this, I know that's not we're not here to talk about budgeting today, but again, I think it's really important to bring up, because you need that idea of whether you can pay for those opportunities or plans up front. And depending on the size of your business and your own skills of managing budgets, some of us kind of shy away from it. You might have varying degrees of knowledge or detail on this, or varying degrees of an interest in this. I was very lucky. I had a business partner. One of us was much more interested in the budget and planning and forecasting than the other, and that worked for us because we could balance that out. But if you're on your own, then you do absolutely need to understand your cash flow. You might leave it at the moment just to your accountant to just do financial reporting, or you might know every single penny that goes in and out of your business. Either way, it's still worth having a look at it, because budget management is different to that financial reporting that your accountant will do for the taxman or whoever. I think a budget is an essential tool for any type of business in terms of helping you manage your planning. It allows you to anticipate the income and expenses that you've got over a certain period, helps make decision making a bit easier. You might have this brilliant idea and spend a lot of time evaluating it and looking at it and starting to plan it, and then actually you look at your budget and go, well, I can't afford that. Had you looked at your budget first, you might not have spent that time on something instead of the right thing. So it's all about your time is an expense as well. In its simplest form, a budget is just a record of cash coming in and out of your business and a tool to estimate how much money you'll need. It also allows you to maybe work out where you can do some savings or put some money away because you've got a big expense coming, I don't know, a loan repayment or new software or your tax bill. And we know there's certain things we can predict. There's obviously certain things we can't predict over the coming year, but like I said earlier, once you've noted down all those significant events or eventualities through the year, you can predict a lot of the costs associated with those. So if you don't have a budget in place, or if you're not really confident with the numbers in your budget, just sit down with a piece of paper and just record your recurring expenses. Think about what expenses you might have coming that are variable. So, you have seasonal staff, your payroll goes up and down through the year. Note down any large one-off charges you might know that's coming. Like I said, if you've got to buy a piece of equipment, or you've got to pay back a loan, or you've got to pay a bill. And it's just money going out. Then have a think about what your income will be. So if you've been trading for a few years, you'll kind of know your peaks and flows. If you haven't, then you have to take an educated guess. But estimating that income is really, really important. Then calculate your profit margin, because if your profit margin isn't where you want it to be, you may need to make some adjustments. Once you've done all that, you can then set your budget for the future months and monitor it regularly. Really think about, looking at that in my business, we used to look at it on a weekly basis because we used to have very large bills going out continually for stock, 100,000 a week and things like that. So we had to be constantly monitoring what was going on. But, you might feel you can do it once a month. A couple of tips here. Just don't overcomplicate it. This is what I'm saying. Just do your outgoings and your income, and then work out your profit margin. I think, particularly if we're nervous of numbers, we can really overcomplicate things, and it's really important not to feel overwhelmed. So getting moving with just that simple budget, rather than getting really stuck into a complicated one. I still don't know how to read a balance sheet properly. I can build a P&L, but balance sheets, not so much. But I know what's important to me is more so the cash flow than the profit and loss account. And it can be off-putting if you make it too complicated. Stay flexible. So making sure that you can weather the storms or sunny periods that might happen this year. Use your budget to help inform that decision making. Like I said a second ago, you know, how you've got all these great ideas, but you know, use that budget to help inform it. Or if you've just had a great month of sales, it means that you can maybe increase your budget for, I don't know, marketing costs the following month. Or if you've had a poor month of sales, you might have to look at reining in, I don't know, a purchase of stock or something like that, or working out a better way of financing that stock. And again, I can't say it enough, review costs, check you're not paying for things that you don't use, or that you can get for better value somewhere else. Don't spend hours and hours on this, because actually your time is going to cost as well. But if you know that you know, that software I don't use anymore, that insurance I don't need because I've got it somewhere else, it's an easy way to find a few little extra pounds. And you know, do you really need something that you've always paid for just because you've always done it? Possibly not. And another thing we used to do in my business was we had a savings account. We just moved money across so that, you know, it wasn't always as full as it should be, and I'll be honest, but you know, it was nice to be able to say, right, that's the money for the tax bill, or that's the money for the stock that's coming next week. And we try to kind of keep it separate. Okay, so the next page. So the next step was execution. So working out your priorities, who's accountable for it, and communicating it, and how, you know, how you're going to deliver those actions. Many of you will have heard of a Boston matrix. This is a version of a Boston matrix here. We have to be pragmatic as SMEs. You can't always address everything. You still have to run the business, and there's only certain things you can actually physically do because of physical resource or cash resource. So really think about prioritizing. You've got all these ideas, you've got all these things that need to be addressed. How do we prioritize them? So on this box, and let me just look at my next idea. So this box is, on this grid, if the top left-hand box is those things that you know you can work on, you know that they're going to be great for the business, and they, that should say high certainty. No, it does say high certainty. Sorry, I'm talking about the bottom left box. So positive impact on your business and high certainty. Those things in green you can work on. You know that they have to happen, and they're going to happen, and they're going to be great for my business. The ones above that, so the positive impact and high uncertainty, are things that might help you, but you haven't got enough information about them. So you just need to have a think about how you can reduce the uncertainty of those if you think they're going to be really good for your business. The negative impact and high uncertainty, so the purple box, sorry, high certainty, these are problems you need to solve today. So the green box and the purple box are your important boxes. So those are the ones you need to do something about. And then the orange box, these are the things you need to be aware of, but you need to find out a bit more about them to help you reduce that uncertainty. So, I mean, there's lots of different ways, but, you know, have a think about how you can prioritize those items in those tasks you need to do in your business. The next slide is actually it's a version of this. Again, this is actually something that I wrote for a session I do on time management. But again, it helps you develop your business priorities. So it's the Boston matrix. Again, it's important and urgent, important, not urgent, not important and urgent. And yeah, so if you look in those boxes, it tells you what kind of things might sit in that box and when you need to do them. I like people to look at box D quite a lot, because we have an awful lot of disruptions and time bandits in our lives. So, you know, trying to get rid of those is as important as trying to deal with the ones we saw on the previous slide, which have a positive impact and high certainty. So, you know, again, it's just a way of trying to prioritize, and whichever method you use to prioritize, you might have your own way of doing it. Don't forget, it is then key to communicate what you've prioritized to your team or your stakeholders or your advisors. You need to tell them what the plan is, why it's important to the business, and what you need from them. And I think that's something we often forget about, is the communication, particularly if we're a small business and we're working on it on our own. You know, and talking to your accountant or talking to your suppliers about what you plan to do is as important as if you've got a team of 20 people and you're trying to tell them what you need to do. Communication is key, and keeping them up to date is key. So the last step was optimizing. So, and that's about continuous review and revision. If you've got your metrics in place and you've chosen them carefully, then it makes it far easier to do this continuous review and revision and really understand if what you've put in place is right for your business. Make sure those metrics are tied to your strategic objectives, that they're not completely unrelated. Keep it simple. Maintain that data, make sure it's up to date. Again, you might, depending on the speed of your business, I needed to have a weekly dashboard in my business. I had 9 retail stores, we were turning over 5 million a year. I needed to know every week what was happening to my KPIs, my key performance indicators. So I had a very simple dashboard that I used to look at that on a Monday afternoon, and then it helped us to look at what our priorities were for that week. We do a similar exercise on a monthly basis. It only has to be 2 or 3 things, but those things that are going to make the most impact on your business. Report them every week or every month, however often you need to do that, and whatever the speed is of your business, and talk about them with your team. You know, really look at them, really think about what they're saying about your business, because they might help you preempt something that's coming in a few weeks. You know, we used to spot all sorts of things like product lines that weren't doing very well, or conversion rates in our stores. You know, why is the conversion kind of dropping? What's happened? You know, and help just really unearth things that could then preempt any kind of major losses or major gains. It also helps preempt when we knew that there was when we could find something that was selling really, really well, we could then go and order more of it. But you know, if you need some support on working out what those KPIs are, get in touch with your AGP RM, and you know, maybe you can get some support on that. Also, once you've put your plan together, you might want to create a visual guide with putting some of your key milestones up on a wall planner or on a dashboard. I mean, I love a wall planner. I love to be able to see what I need to do by when, and I often say, you go back to simple old school, a load of post-its on the wall, knowing what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it by, because they can be moved around, because as I said at the beginning, a plan is always flexible. You can move it around and do what you need to do with it. If you keep reviewing it, it will never be set in stone. So if you've spent your time planning, it will help you when it comes to the execution. I've just put one slide in here, and I'm conscious I've gone quite fast, but I'm going to put one slide in here. It gives us time for some questions anyway, about just the importance of contingency planning. I'm talking a lot about planning and all the steps you need to take, and it sounds like a lot of work, but as per that quote at the beginning, you know, the more work you put up front, the quicker it is for you to make decisions and shortcut to actually making the decisions that you need to make, rather than having to then go away and think it through and maybe go off on the wrong direction. And it's the same with contingency planning. Now, big corporations, they do a lot of contingency planning. I worked in the banking sector during the banking crisis, so there was a lot of contingency planning going on then. But I think for an SME, it might just be looking at some 2 or 3 potential really big events that could be detrimental to your business, or be a positive for your business. Obviously, they're going to be things that are unpredictable, but the more you plan for them, the more you can actually control them when they happen and lessen their impact. So think about 2 or 3 things that would, when they happen, would have a big effect on your business. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of contingency planning or crisis planning was about ranking threats in terms of the likelihood of them happening. Since the pandemic, what people are tending to do a bit more is ranking them in order of revenue impact, and I think that's a way of prioritizing which eventualities you look at, because you know, it's those things that have got the greatest potential for damage that you really need to look at, rather than the things that are more likely to happen. I think personally, they might both be the same thing, but you know, I guess it might be one of your suppliers has a fire and you can't get it in your stock. You know, what would happen in that event? Examine what that potential would be of your business. Come up with 2 or 3 solutions that you would put into place if that were to happen, and then make sure everybody knows what their responsibilities would be if that happened. And I've seen that happen as well, where, you know, somebody's had a supplier issue like that. I don't know what else it could be. I'm not sure. You know your business is better than me, but just those 2 or 3 that would be really detrimental if they were to happen. I don't know. I mean, would you do it for if you want a massive new contract? You know, you probably need to look at a contingency plan for that as well, because you might not have enough staff, you might not have enough stock, you might not have cash to do what you need to do. So in terms of this kind of more immediate term planning, particularly with the the uncertainty we've got with 2023, I think the key things to remember is, what's your goal or goals for this year? Make sure you don't spend too much time on it. Spend time on it, absolutely, but don't spend weeks and weeks and weeks doing it. Just go with what's there, what you've got. Make sure you've got KPIs in place so you can monitor that you're getting there. Diagnose those challenges and opportunities quickly, then plan how you'll mitigate them or maximize them, and look at what your financial position is so that you can make the most of them. So that's it from me. I'm just going to stop sharing a minute. I will share the slides today as well, and there's a load of links on the last slide to various reports, documents, blogs, etc., that will help support today's session. So if you've got any questions, be happy to answer.
Oh, I'll go then.
Oh, hang on, let me put my video back on. There we go, you can see me now. Hi.
Hi.
Go on, Sean.
Identify potential events. I've written down supplier failure, because Hoselock failed massively this year for me, so I know that is quite likely. Poor weather, and then obviously we're very reliant on Google traffic, so drop in SEO, basically our SEO failing. Do you think they're good events?
I think they're all very sensible. I forgot about Google, because Google are changing things again next year, aren't they?
I know. Oh, it's all fun.
Yeah, so those are absolutely, you know, those are 3 big things for you. And if you've got experience of one, that you're halfway there, because you know what you need to do.
Yeah, that's it.
So, you know, I think those 3 are brilliant. Well, yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely. I'd love those slides. This was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
No worries. Sean's lucky he's got some time left with me, so we can always discuss it when I next see you. I think, you know, at the end of the day, it's just about being prepared, isn't it? We can't know everything, but if we've got an idea of what we'll do in those situations, and you know, like I said, this time of year is the time of year to really kind of do your housekeeping, get under the skin of what's going in and out of your business, and deal with those things you've been putting off as well.
Yeah, I think my favorite thing that you've said is just keep it simple. Don't spend too much time on it. Just something on paper.
Yeah.
Leanne, did you want to say something?
Oh, sorry, Leanne.
I did. Sorry, no, that's fine.
I keep saying the mic going off and on, so go on.
That's fine. No, there's no problem. I'm not actually sure if it's relevant for this webinar. I know that we had one on technology yesterday. But with regards to your KPIs, is there any specific software you would suggest for being able to collect that data? So reporting data.
So KPI reporting, not off the top of my head, but let me come back to you on that one. I will definitely come back to you, Leanne, because I can't think of it off the top of my head, but there are a few out there.
That's fine, there's no problem.
I used to, I love a spreadsheet, so I used to make spreadsheets. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be double doing stuff. You don't want to be double inputting stuff. So if you've got stuff, what kind of back end systems do you use to monitor?
So we've got a couple, so that was connected to my question. I suppose if there's any software that can collate the information, maybe from spreadsheets, like you said, I love spreadsheets too. We have Sage and our own custom CRM, which can do certain KPIs.
Okay.
So yeah, I know it's quite a difficult question, perhaps. So
it's not my area of expertise, but it sounds like Sean knows something. But
yeah, I've got two suggestions. So I use Asana in my business, but it's more like goals orientated. You can obviously use it to measure KPIs, but if you're actually looking for something that can like poll APIs, then Airtable is like a really sexy kind of advanced spreadsheet software, basically.
Okay.
So Airtable, I've not had the most experience with it, but a lot of guys in the e-commerce realm are using it because it can pull data from loads of different places, and it is basically like building a spreadsheet, but a nice looking one.
Okay, cool. No worries. I'll check it out.
I've heard of Airtable, and I do use Asana. I use Asana more, as Sean said, for task management, really. It won't pull your KPIs through, but it's good for like project planning or just task planning, really. I work with another organization on a program, and we use it to kind of make sure we're both up to date on different things. So
yeah, I've heard of Asana. I'll have a look at them.
Not dissimilar to Trello, but I'm not a fan of Trello. I prefer Asana.
I moved away from Trello to Asana. Yeah.
But yes,
Okay, cool.
I'll have a look if I can think of any others. When I was preparing this, I did see some stuff, and I can't remember the names of them off the top of my head, but I have heard of Airtable.
Okay, cool. No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Cool. We've covered everything there. If there's anything that you think of after the webinar, though, do get in touch with us, either through me or to Kate. We will circulate the slides for you. That's not a problem. And any issues, you've always got your RMs to go and talk to as well. Sean, do you want to say anything?
No. I was just coming off mute just to say thank you so much.
Okay, lovely. Have a great day, everyone.
Well, if anyone wants to come to me directly, my email is kate@kateml.com.
Fabulous.
Okay. Lovely.
Thank you for your time, Kate.
Everyone. Thanks for joining us.
That was really good. Thank you. Bye.